my God, this really happened? Somebody gets murdered. This is the Hollywood dream gone wrong.
Here's a waitress at a Dairy Queen, and within a matter of months, she was a Playboy Playmate.
She lit up her room. All the corny phrases were true about Dorothy.
She became sought after by every man in the world, even if it was only in their minds.
Paul was a small-time hustler who found the golden nugget. Dorothy was his meal ticket.
He's telling her, my goodness, you could be a Playboy bunny, you could be this, you could be that.
I think he really thought, you know, this is mine. He wanted ownership.
He wanted to be somebody, and he was nobody. He looked like a putz.
They wanted her, but not him.
I think for Paul, losing Dorothy to Peter Bogdanovich, a huge star director, was like the ultimate insult.
I knew that he was dangerous, and somehow or other, she didn't see that.
Are you really shy, sensitive, and romantic?
Yes, I'm getting over my shyness fast. But I am very sensitive and I'm very romantic. That's the type of girl a lot of men fantasize about. A lot of men like the girl next door.
I mean, are you the girl next door? Because it seems to me that I've never lived next door to anyone who looked like you.
Well, when I came from the town that I came from, I lived with my family still. I just graduated from high school. I worked in a Dairy Queen for 4 years wearing pigtails and no makeup.
Whose playmate are you supposed to be when you're the playmate of the month?
I think I'm supposed to be the playmate, whoever chooses me as their fantasy.
Dorothy Stratten, in many ways, was almost like a fantasy of what the Playboy reader or the Playboy fan would want. She's blonde, she's well-built, she has an innocence about her.
Dorothy Stratten was an angel. She just was a sweet, effervescent angel.
I said, she's gorgeous, and this town will destroy her.
She was just breathtakingly beautiful. There was something very otherworldly about being with her. Time would stop, and you just felt you were like in a frozen moment.
She was a young girl from Vancouver, British Columbia.
She was very naive. A high school student, really had no worldly experience.
She is the daughter of a woman who came over after World War II. She has almost never known her biological father.
Dorothy really wanted people to love her. She had felt abandoned by any kind of male figure that was in her life. She was being raised by a mother.
I think that her mother, Nellie, was a very hard worker, and she worked in a school cafeteria.
It was difficult. Dorothy went to work because her mother needed the money.
She took care of me a lot because my mom wasn't around. Taught me how to tie my shoes. Was there for every school function, sports day, talent day. She was there.
Dorothy had started working at this Dairy Queen when she was 14, and she was really pleased to have found a job that young.
I mean, I can kind of picture this beautiful blonde girl, still young, and beautiful skin and beautiful eyes and long legs, and saying to you, you know, what, do you want vanilla or chocolate, right?
She's still working at that Dairy Queen when she's 18, and she's still in high school, and that is where she is the day that Paul Snider, a local pimp, walks into the Dairy Queen and sees Dorothy, and both of their lives will be changed forever after.
Paul Snider is an interesting character, a scary one, but undeniably interesting.
He didn't keep a low profile. In fact, he drove a black Corvette or a mink coat, Star of David, encrusted with jewels that he hung on his chest. He was called the Jewish pimp. He cultivated that.
Paul Paul Snider was dressing in exactly the way that he thought that successful men were dressing in disco clubs. It was almost like he was looking at what John Travolta was wearing in Saturday Night Fever, and that was the image that he was also trying to convey, with the shirt that was open and the gold jewelry hanging down and his hairy chest hanging out. That was the look of the time.
I found him to be basically a very streetwise individual, trying to basically make a buck any way he could, especially on the backs of others, using others.
He was an opportunist, and he was always looking for his opportunity to make money.
He was not on the up and up. You know, if you shake hands, you count your fingers after you do it.
He made a pretty good living as a promoter for automobile shows and cycling shows, but it wasn't enough to accommodate his extravagant taste. So he began to procure girls, pimp them on the side.
He had a stable of several girls.
They called him the Jewish pimp.
He would find them and then exploit them to build his own power.
Paul Snider was a predator. You think of him and you think of a wolf, and you think of him stalking his prey.
So he sees a sexy girl at a Dairy Queen. She's a child, basically. But, you know, what can happen for me through her is of interest to me.
And he decides to groom her, like a lot of people like this do.
You look at them and you wonder, my goodness, you know, this is the perfect victim for Snider. You have this innocent, untouched, young piece of canvas.
He had a good eye. He saw the Playboy Playmate of the Year behind a counter at a Dairy Queen. He saw the possibility. That's an eyeball. That's a good eye. And he was right. She was spectacular to look at. And she was also sweet and likable and approachable and nice.
He bought her beautiful jewelry, beautiful clothes, so she was totally taken in by him.
There was a bit of a pathology about her in the sense that when this guy paid attention to her and showered her with gifts, she grabbed onto that. There was something missing in her life.
As a 26-year-old man, he goes to her high school prom. He buys her the gown that she's going to wear for the prom.
It was a very beautiful, ruffled dress that highlighted her features.
So in the movie that I was in, Star 80, Paul Snider comes and takes Dorothy to her prom, her high school prom. And it really does feel uncomfortable.
After the dance, I took her to a professional photographer who took her first professional photo. And it was in this very chaste but luxurious gown.
Paul Snider worked her insecurity and gave her compliments in the places where she felt most vulnerable. And when you're insecure, you hear those words, they fill holes that you feel you're made up of.
People at school would tease her about her lips being so big, and she felt awkward. She wasn't comfortable in her own skin.
Paul Snider saw this young girl who was almost old enough at the Dairy Queen as the sexy girl next door. Now that's what Playboy magazine would advertise all their girls as. The hot girl next door. She could live next door to you, pal. So, really? You think? Let me look. And if she's not there, she's in this magazine.
He's telling her, my goodness, you could be a Playboy bunny, you could be this, you could be that, and in her world, working at Dairy Queen and not seeing a future for herself, that could be something. She was very shy at the time, too. So this is a whole new world for her.
And it took him a little while to talk me into agreeing to taking some test pictures. I had never taken my clothes off for anyone I didn't know.
And eventually she said yes, and it was just this gradual experience of saying yes a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until you suddenly find yourself as a part of this completely different world. And it's hard to look back and sort of measure how far you have come.
She was afraid her mother would not like it, and she didn't feel comfortable doing it. There was arguing going on, I recall that. Dorothy crying, you know, and Paul trying to convince her that this is right, that it'll be fine, it's not the worst thing in the world. Go ahead, do it.
She was enamored with him. I mean, he saw that in me. Oh my God. And it made her happy to be her. So happy to be her with him. So it was artificial, but it was a relationship. And it was wonderful. It was great. And she trusted him.
I think the early devotion to Dorothy was partially an act.
He considered Dorothy class merchandise.
And I thought, this guy is a real con artist.
Paul said to her, "You're beautiful." And you know the effect that those words can have on a woman.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.